Welcome to Inside Recovery. I'm Mark Lanier with APN Lodge in Edwards, Colorado. Inside Recovery is an opportunity to talk with industry professionals about their passions, experiences, and insights. The goal is to help viewers understand more about treatment and the process. It's also an opportunity to network with treatment industry professionals and hear their stories. Today, I'm excited to welcome on our YouTube show Steve Sarin with Aspen Ridge Recovery and to hear, hi Steve, and to hear his thoughts on the unique services Aspen Ridge offers. Steve, welcome. So glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. Well, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you, to get us started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe what you're doing in the treatment industry?
So I'm in recovery myself. That's what brought me to this industry. And currently at Aspen Ridge, I'm a public relations and marketing manager. So I work directly with my boss and we handle website content, SEO, blogs on the website, useful content for people who are in need of help and resources to be able to have. I also try and get us on TV and in newspapers when we have something interesting to say to kind of spread the word about what we're doing.
That's great. Um, so how did you kind of get into that? You said you're in recovery and now you're in marketing and public relations. So how did you make the bridge to get into that kind of niche area?
In a very, very roundabout way. So I'm an old school restaurant guy. I worked in restaurants for a lot of years as a server, as a manager at various different levels, and went home and drank every night. Sometimes
Oh,
drank,
yeah.
had a few drinks before work. I'm sure if anyone out there knows restaurant folks, there's a real party aspect of that industry. I got tired of it. I remember sitting on my mom's patio and had one of those light bulb come to Jesus moments, as people call it. I realized that I could work in restaurants, and there's nothing wrong with working in restaurants. I just didn't want to do it anymore forever and continue to drink, or I could ask for help and go back to school and finish the degree I had been working on for the better part of a decade. So I asked for some money. I didn't have health insurance. Well, I had Medicaid at the time, which is pretty useless if you want to get substance abuse treatment. So
Yep.
I asked for some money and went to treatment and then got pretty involved in a 12-step community, went to sober living, went back to school, finished my degree in about 2 years, took summer classes, really busted it out, did 3 internships. And my last
Wow.
internship, yeah, it was a lot of work. It was worth it, but definitely a lot of time. My last internship was with a public relations firm in Boulder. I kind of fell into PR. I knew I wanted to help people. And I thought maybe going into politics, working at the state level, I could help implement some policies that would help people in their everyday lives. But I'm sure you and your viewers have turned on the news in the past, 5 or 6 years, might have had a sour taste in their mouth like I did about the current state of the American political system. So I kind of pivoted a little bit more to PR where I could be useful, and landed at a B2B tech firm in Boulder. I worked there for a year and a half and I just wasn't passionate about it. It was a job. I got a paycheck every 2 weeks and that was about it.
Yeah.
And I mentioned I was in a 12-step program. My sponsor actually asked me to share at his home group for the entire month of March in 2020. And the second one, I was speaking to everyone, and I don't remember what I said to these people because I think I was coherent, but I may not have been. I just had one of those light bulb moments, and I realized just how rewarding it was working with sponsees and kind of giving back to the recovery community and people that were coming in. And I just wanted to figure out how I could make a living doing something I was passionate about. So I knew a couple people in the industry from the rooms, and from my own recovery experience, took a couple coffee meetings. I got connected with Aspen Ridge Recovery. They were kind of looking for someone like me. And I did a lot of research about Aspen Ridge. I figured if I was going to make the leap from a stable job with a stable income, about to get a promotion and a substantial raise, I was really going to have to buy into what they were doing. And I was completely sold on Aspen Ridge after my initial research. And it took about 2 months to fully get on board because COVID went full blast. Everyone from ExxonMobil to, McDonald's was on a hiring freeze. So it took a little while for everyone to get a little bit more comfortable bringing new staff on. And then May of 2020 became full-time at Aspen Ridge. So that's probably longer than you wanted, but that's my story.
That's okay. That's great. That's good information. It's funny, you talked about the restaurant industry. My first sponsor also came out of the restaurant industry, and I don't have any experience other than eating every now and then in a restaurant. But that's, I guess, it turns out to be kind of a thing where there is it's kind of common to have substance abuse going on. Not in all restaurants, of course, but that's
It's all of
not
them.
well,
I've worked
you,
it's most of them. It's not all the staff, but there's definitely that underbelly of
yeah,
addiction, work hard, play hard at most of them.
and I think a lot of industries, we struggle with that. But anyway, just kind of an interesting thing. The other thing, so with Aspen Ridge, one of the things is that, and one of the reasons why I'm talking to you, why I wanted to talk with you, is just my attraction to your company, and really what attracts me to the company, and that's the people, actually. So I've worked with Jen, with Tom, with uh, Lauren, with Laura, with Claire. So I think that's everybody I know, and now you.
And now me.
Uh, yeah, but it's a great team. Everybody's super, helpful and great communicators and wanting to, help folks. So maybe you could tell me a little bit about. I know you've got like three locations, at least three locations. Maybe you could just do a short, summary of Aspen Ridge, where they're located, what you're doing there, what they're doing.
So we have three locations. You're correct. We have one in Fort Collins, one in Lakewood, and a newer location in Colorado Springs that's been open for about a year. We just moved into a new location down there from our first office to a new one, brand new. We've got a lot more room to accommodate our growing list of clients in that location. And what we do in a nutshell is we help people with addiction, mental health, and trauma realize that they hold value and that they deserve to live a life with courage, purpose, and connection. Our treatment's pretty affordable compared to a lot of other places in the industry. And we've got a heavy focus on evidence-based treatment for addiction, mental health, and trauma. That's what really brought me to Aspen Ridge, was those last two pieces. Part of my story was 9 months of intense therapy before I went to treatment. And I am absolutely convinced if I hadn't have dealt with the underlying causes of my addiction, that I would still be drinking and using drugs today. So I wanted to sign on with an organization that was very therapy focused. And that's what Aspen Ridge does.
So, uh, specifically, so are they offering like residential or PHP or IOP or intensive outpatient? What kind of services are they offering?
So we're completely outpatient. Our highest level of care
Okay,
is PHP. For anyone who might not know that watching, is partial hospitalization. So it's
right.
essentially the same amount of clinical time you'd get in a residential program. You just don't have to stay overnight. Our
Yeah.
next level of care is our daytime IOP program. So it's kind of halfway between an IOP and halfway between PHP. So you're still getting a really high level of clinical care during the day in group and individual settings. And then you can go home at night as well. If someone doesn't want to go home at night, if they really are worried that they might use, again, we do work very closely with lots of sober living facilities
Yeah.
in Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, and the Denver area. And we're more than happy to facilitate meetings between them and get them all connected with the sober living. And if they're close enough, we can provide transportation in the morning and evenings and get them to and from the center if that's an issue as well. Step down from that, we do have evening IOP. So that's a traditional IOP program at nighttime. It's 9 hours a week. And weekly individual sessions with therapists. There's also access to psychiatry services if anyone needs medication management or anything like that. And we have a pretty robust family and alumni program that we strongly encourage folks to take advantage of. It really helps to kind of, get, if it's a spouse, a sister, a parent, any loved one, anyone who you deem important is welcome to participate in those programs. And we're big advocates of co-recovery because there's so many issues that happen in relationships during the addiction, during an active addiction. And it's really important if you want to move forward together to get to the root cause of those and heal those and repair those relationships. And we also offer an outpatient program. So once someone has stepped down their levels of care, and they're doing pretty well, they can just stop by for an hour and a half a week for their group therapy session and keep the process going. We try and keep people as long as they'll stay with us, because evidence shows, the longer you participate in these services, the better the chances are for you to have a happy and successful, sober and clean life. We can keep people for up to 9 months. If someone does start to finish, it's about 9 months, give or take. There's some leeway in there. Could be a little shorter, could be longer if someone wants to stay longer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, Steve, is, I think I'm a little older than you. And when I was younger, I would hear about guys, going off to a treatment program, and then usually it's like, okay, I'm done, I did it. I'm back in their hometown, back in the same routine. And before you know it, trains off the track, they're in the ditch, and it's a mess again. And I think is one of the things that's kind of evolved over time, is our realization and understanding that it really isn't a one and done kind of thing. We really have to, the longer we're involved with support and dealing with, you mentioned, the underlying issues, the better our chances are of really reinventing ourselves and figuring out how we're going to live this life, with our train on the track and not messing up.
Exactly. Like if you go away for, a 30-day treatment center in Malibu, I mean, sure, that's a fantastic first step. But what's really changed in 30 days? I don't think you could find a psychiatrist or a psychologist that will say, sure, 30 days, we'll talk, a few hours a week and you'll be cured after a month. It's a much longer process than that.
Yeah. And that sometimes is hard to really understand, especially if you're the guy or girl, woman who needs help and needs treatment, to understand that this really is now kind of a lifelong, actually, process,
Yeah,
for recovery.
yeah, it's ingrained in our culture too. We all want a quick fix. I wanted a quick fix. I wish it was just a pill I could take, and I would
No kidding.
not want to drink
Yeah.
or use drugs again. But just like anything worth it in life, it's hard work.
Yeah. It is. Okay. Well, I've got one more follow-up question, Steve, and that is, what is it? And we maybe kind of talking a little bit about it, but what do you wish everyone knew about this treatment world? What do you wish folks knew?
It's hard work, but it's absolutely worth it. And it's entirely possible. I know it sounds cliche because it is cliche that if someone like me who was drinking close to a handle of vodka a day and taking pills and using any kind of drug someone put in front of me, if someone who was in such a rough place, alcohol withdrawal seizures, if someone like me can do this, then it's completely possible. And I really wish that all of us in the treatment community and the recovery community could do a better job to fight the stigma that's associated with addiction. I think we're making great progress on that front, especially with the opioid epidemic in the news almost daily. It is exposing a whole new groups of people to the scourge of addiction, and it's happening to so many people that it's close to a lot of people now. And I think if there's any good to come out of what's going on right now and in the past 2 decades, that it's that we're more visible and that the stigma is starting to go away. But I think we have a lot more work to do to show people who don't have addiction that we're your brothers, we're your sisters. Everyone has someone they know who they're at the very least concerned about their relationship with substances. So if we could just fight the stigma, that's what I want everyone to.
Well, I agree with you. I think, a lot of progress, of course, has been made on that front, as far as making it less stigmatized to need help or have an issue. Still a big issue with abuse and overdoses, and really hitting all-time highs still. But folks like you getting the message out, letting them know there is hope, there are options, and it's possible to live a different life without substances. And so, anyway, on that note, I'm going to say thanks so much, Steve, for coming on today and talking with us. I look forward to hearing more about Aspen Ridge Recovery in the future. We'll sign off in this episode in peace and gratitude. And thanks everyone for watching. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.